Missouri senator has changed his stance on a statewide drug monitoring program. Good evening, I'm Brittany Cooper.
And I'm Jordan Berger. Thanks so much for joining us. Missouri prescription drug monitoring program has been a highly debated subject and constantly opposed by Senator Rob Schaaf for years. Last night, Schaaf announced the end of his fight against a statewide PDMP. KMUH Emma Reckenberg joins us in the studio with the details of the conversation she had today with the senator. Emma?
Thanks, Jordan. Back in 2012, Senator Schaaf led an 8-hour filibuster against a prescription monitoring proposal. He's been fighting similar legislation ever since, until this week, when he accepted defeat.
If we're going to have it, demand that it be effective. And the only way a program like this can be effective is if doctors actually use it.
If implemented, Schaaf, who is a physician, says he would adhere to the prescription drug monitoring program requirements.
Anybody who wants us to give up our liberty with the intent of saving lives ought to at least be willing to use the program. I mean, I think it would be outrageous not to require that.
In the past, Schaaf argued a PDMP would be a violation of patients' privacy, but Kilgore's pharmacist Bill Morrissey says a statewide drug database could reduce prescription drug abuse.
If an individual goes into a pharmacy to fill a prescription for a controlled substance that is something that's known, certain drugs that we're going to monitor that have a street value, that have an abuse potential, that are concerns. And basically, when they go to fill that prescription, it will screen that particular person and that particular drug and related drugs and make sure that they aren't filling it in multiple places.
Missouri is the only state without a prescription drug monitoring program, which keeps track of specific over-the-counter medications. Under the proposed state law, prescriptions such as OxyContin would be flagged for pharmacists. Additionally, stimulants such as Adderall and Ritalin and opioid pain medications, including oxycodone and Percocet, would be monitored. Morrissey says prescription drug abuse is a major issue.
It's everywhere. So yes, we do see that in Columbia, Missouri on a daily basis.
With a PDMP in place, he says people's personal medication records would be kept private.
It's not public information. It's just for healthcare professionals who either can fill these prescriptions, write these prescriptions, that sort of thing.
Columbia recently passed a countywide drug monitoring program, which will go into effect April 25th.
If we're going to be having PDMPs all around the state, it's better to have a statewide one that the doctors actually use.
Schaaf says the State Medical Association, U.S. Senators McCaskill and Blunt, and Governor Greitens are in support of the drug monitoring program. He says he thinks a Missouri PDMP will pass this session. In the studio, Emma Reckenberg, KOMU 8 News.
All right, thank you, Emma. Cole County Emergency Medical Services is seeking more crews and ambulances. KMUH's Aaron Reynolds is live at one of the EMS sites to tell us why the service needs help. Aaron?
EMS Chief Jerry Johnson proposed the idea of extra crews at a county commission meeting earlier this week. Johnson said extra crews would help cover an increase in transfer calls, which are currently being covered by paramedics. Johnson said transfer calls still require medical care, but not urgent paramedic care. Additional crews would allow those paramedics to respond to 911 calls.
As we see the volume increase with transfers outside the community, there's a balancing act that has to take place. We want to be able to provide that service to folks that need it. At the same time, we need to complete our 911 mission to the community.
This is a multi-layered proposal. It also includes new ambulances and equipment. The Cole County Commission will meet in 2 weeks to discuss new vehicles. Reporting live in Jefferson City, Aaron Reynolds, KMU 8 News.
All right, thank you, Aaron. Missouri's Attorney General Josh Hawley has filed 2 sets of criminal charges against a Mississippi county sheriff. The first complaint accuses Sheriff Corey Hutchinson of several counts of forgery and tampering with computer data and 1 count of notary misconduct. The second complaint charges Hutchinson with assault and robbery in the case of an arrest of a 77-year-old woman. The complaint alleges he handcuffed the woman with enough force that she suffered a heart attack. For more information about the complaints, visit KOMU.com.
Here's what's happening right now. The Columbia Police Department SWAT team and crisis negotiation teams are conducting training exercises in parts of Boone County. So you may see heavy police presence, including the use of armored vehicles. The exercises are for training purposes only. They'll last until 10 tonight, and you can find a list of the locations on our website, KOMU.com. Every police officer in the country could soon have a body camera. A company previously known as Taser International is giving law enforcement agencies the cameras with 1 year of free premium service. Police will also be able to store and manage the body cam footage using the company's technology. Taser International has now changed its name to Axon Enterprise as it shifts its focus to body camera digital technology rather than tasers.
The death toll from a suspected chemical attack on a northern Syrian town rose to 75 today. The U.S. administration and other Western powers have blamed the government of President Bashar al-Assad.
But Russia, an ally of the Assad regime, says it was a terrorist weapons depot that was targeted. NBC's Richard Engel reports on the ongoing investigation.
Medical workers and volunteers are still trying to give aid to the survivors of what appears to have been one of the worst chemical attacks in Syria in the last several years. Some of the victims have been transferred out of the country and are receiving aid in Turkey. Doctors Without Borders, the respected international charity, said that some of the victims its partner clinics have examined showed symptoms that were consistent with a chemical weapons attack. Chemical weapons experts who've looked at the video, and there have been very disturbing videos coming out, show that the symptoms of the victims are consistent with a nerve agent like sarin. People foaming at the mouth, dropping to the floor, the rapid onset of illness or death, all, they say, consistent with a chemical weapon. The question is, who did it? Russia, which is an ally of the Bashar al-Assad regime, has a different version of events than the one that the U.S. is describing. The U.S. has blamed the Assad government. Russia, however, says that it wasn't the Assad government at all. Instead, they say the Assad government carried out a military strike in this area that was affected, and that the airstrike carried out by the Assad government hit, quote, a terrorist weapons depot, and that in the course of this attack, chemical toxins were released into the air, and that is what caused all the injury.
A humanitarian group called for an impartial investigation into the Syria attack today. Speaking in Beirut, the deputy director of Human Rights Watch Middle East says the evidence her organization has gathered so far shows nerve agent was used in the attack based on the symptoms the victims suffered.
The types of symptoms that they are describing are more consistent with a nerve agent type of attack. And this includes, for example, pinpoint pupils. In some cases, first responders have also said that they have suffered symptoms from the attack. This secondary exposure is something that is also consistent with the use of a nerve agent. What we are still trying to assess is what the cause of this apparent chemical attack was.
President Trump publicly condemned the attack today, saying it was, quote, an affront to humanity that cannot be tolerated.
Russian officials say 6 people, all from Central Asia, were arrested today on suspicion of recruiting extremists. The arrests come 2 days after a bombing on the St. Petersburg metro system, which killed 14 people. Officials say the suicide attacker was a native of the Central Asian country of Kyrgyzstan. There was no immediate information tying today's arrest with the suspected bomber. President Trump's chief strategist Steve Bannon is out after Trump removed him from the National Security Council. A top White House official said Bannon was put on the council only as a check against previous National Security Advisor Michael Flynn. Now that Flynn is gone, Bannon is no longer needed in the role. Critics have said it was inappropriate for Bannon to play a role on national security matters.
Extreme weather continues throughout the United States, with violent winds in the Midwest to flooding in the Southeast. A storm hit Missouri overnight, spawning a tornado in the city of Goodman, and in Atlanta, flooded streets with lightning sparking multiple fires across the region. Forecasters say the most severe weather is expected later tonight, warning millions from Illinois through the Carolinas could be affected. Luckily for us here, the worst of the storms are out of our way, but there is still some rain in the forecast, so let's send it over to Tori to see how much.
All right, thanks, Tori. How a sizable donation will kickstart upkeep for Columbia's Parks and Rec. That's coming up.
All right, get through another couple hours and then sunshine again finally. Yep. Thanks, Tori. Coming up, what an unknown local business did for the future of Columbia's Parks and Rec. Jefferson Jefferson City residents voted to build a second public high school yesterday, and the timeline for opening those doors is already in motion.
Superintendent Larry Linthicum says the plan is to now officially open the doors in the fall of 2019. He added that it's safe to say Lewis and Clark will attend the current high school, while Thomas Jefferson students will attend the new high school, and that the final boundary lines are close to set. The tax rate is also close to set, with 65 cents for building and 45 cents for operating the schools. Those funds will be split among the schools with a gradual tax implementation leading up to 2019's opening. He says this allows for immediate results without an unnecessary taxation.
But there'll be some immediate on there as we move forward. But obviously, the full operation, the second high school, will not be in effect here until the fall of 19. So we're not going to be, taxing folks here. It'll be a phase-in approach as we lead up to that.
Linthicum did not comment on when boundary lines would finalize, but invited the community to discuss the upcoming school tax rates at the August board meeting.
The due date for tax returns is just 2 short weeks away, and Missourians are looking to save every last penny. An MU researcher says one way to do this is to diversify retirement savings. MU professor Michael O'Doherty studied how to maximize retirement savings for a variety of possible tax rates and incomes. He found splitting savings among traditional and Roth IRAs may save the most money on taxes and earn the best return.
If you look at what taxes are going to look like 20 years from now or 30 years from now in retirement, there's a ton of uncertainty there. And so Roth type investment vehicles really help you mitigate some of that uncertainty.
O'Doherty says it's important to set aside as much as possible for retirement savings.
The Columbia City Council approved a new fund that will benefit the Parks and Recreation Department. The fund will create more money for programs and park upkeep. To jumpstart the fund, an anonymous Columbia business owner donated $25,000. The department hopes to have the fund established by this summer.
Wrinkles and graying hair are not the only signs of aging. What else might come with getting older? Lack of sleep is now proving to be a normal part of aging. A new study found as the brain ages, neurons and circuits in the brain that regulate sleep begin to degrade. That means many seniors will sleep less, wake up more frequently, and feel tired during the day. The findings are concerning to some researchers because data also shows a lack of sleep is linked to almost every major disease like Alzheimer's and cancer. The size of doctors' paychecks may depend on their location, race, and gender. That's according to a new Medscape survey of more than 19,000 U.S. doctors. The results show doctors in less populated states earn more than doctors in urban areas. African Americans have lower salaries than white doctors, and women still earn less than men. An AED, or automated external defibrillator, could save your life during a heart attack, but it might be a little alarming to know most Americans don't know CPR or where to find an AED. In fact, only 15 states plus Washington, D.C. require AEDs in gyms. Luckily, at most gyms with an AED, the staff is trained in CPR.
All right, thanks, Brittany. We'll have a recap of today's top story and another look at that weather. That's coming up after the break.
After years of opposition, Missouri Senator Rob Schaaf has agreed to back upcoming legislation on a statewide drug monitoring program. KOMU8's Emma Reckenberg has the details.
If implemented, a statewide prescription drug monitoring program would track patients and their prescribed controlled substances with high street value and abuse potential, such as Xanax, Adderall, and opioids. Missouri Senator Schaaf has argued against a PDMP, but has recently agreed to support the program, assuming doctors are required to use the database. In the studio, Emma Reckenberg, KOMU8 News.
Here's a look at what we're following for KOMU8 News at 6. Missouri City is reporting a 900% increase in heroin seizures.
And another city is loosening penalties for having small amounts of marijuana. Find out where at 6.
And we're going to hang on to a few of these very scattered showers for the next several hours. It looks like by about midnight tonight, most of those will have worked their way eastward. We're going to be left with a little bit of cloud cover and very cool conditions to start Thursday morning. We'll see overnight lows back into the 30s with a very gusty wind out of the north. So heavy jackets needed tomorrow morning. Looks like the rest of the weekend, though, we are going to be mainly sunny, breezy, and a little bit warmer back into the 70s.
I am so ready for this weekend.
It's going to be beautiful. Yeah.
That's our time for now. Thanks for joining us.
We'll see you back here at 6.
Have a great night.
On air.